Let's check Prot Warrior for 8.3. What? No funny sketches. What? No sexist jokes. That's because Prot Warrior is no nonsense, no bullshit, get things done kinda spec. So let's look at the talents, essences, gear, rotation, and as always, a bunch of other things that will boost your prot game to a whole new level. Fart boobs. I'm a mature adult, I swear. A quick note, the guide will cover the spec from a basic understanding. We will give you everything you need to start 8.3 off with a bang, but always remember there is more to each spec in this game unless Blizz makes WoW into a Candy Crush expansion. On the first row, take Into the Fray. This little guy will boost your haste when you are surrounded by enemies and friendlies alike, each time giving you a stack of haste up to 5 stacks or 15% extra haste. In BFA, tanks have a tendency to have their main active mitigation skill on a cooldown reduced by haste. For you, that's shield block, along with other important rotational abilities. Not to mention, when you start to tackle tougher and tougher content, the damage you will take will scale more and more, and while you yourself can only scale as much as the gear allows, which is far less, and how far the content can go will depend on you. The best example would be mythic keystones, where you can get the highest eye level in the game from a plus 15, but people are clearing plus 24s and potentially higher by the time the season ends. Going to the second row, we are looking at reach. Reach can mean multiple things, but in more plain terms, how far you can extend in terms of mobility, AoE damage, and aggro and such. When raiding, take Bounding Stride. This will lower the cooldown on leap and give you a 70% move speed buff for 3 seconds after you use it. This is really good when you need to move the boss around the room, when you need to go away from the boss and quickly back in, things like that. Fights like Rathian and Vexiona are good examples for this. Otherwise, Crackling Thunder will be your alternative. This is especially good in mythic dungeons where mobs are a bit spread and your first goal is to get aggro on all of them as quickly as possible. Increasing the range on Thunderclap will make that happen, as well as increasing your damage by being able to hit more of them in big pools with fewer cooldowns. The third talent here brings only one viable option, and that is Unstoppable Force. This talent has been nerfed multiple times in BFA, but still provides the best value. That is also in no small part because of a specific Azorite trait we will cover in a bit, so you will have to think of Thunderclap as a solid part of your rotation and cornerstone of the Protection Warrior builds in BFA. Fourth row sees only one actually viable option as far as tanking is concerned, and that is Bolster. This turns your last stand into a big shield block where you will block all melee abilities for its duration, while also reducing its cooldown by 1 more minute. The whole row focuses on defensives, yet the other two options are overall way inferior, with very niche situations where they would excel over Bolster. Since the situations are few and far in between, BFA does not promote active talent swapping, so Bolster will be your only good choice. Even if magic damage would be a problem, the amount of melee hits you will take will outclass magic damage by a huge margin, and unless Blizzard makes that one boss do one specific cast that will one-shot you, there isn't anything like that in the game at this point, then Bolster will be your best bet. Next up, a bit of utility. Stormbolt is a staple warrior stun, a single target effect that can be shot from afar. It has pretty much any applications you can think of as long as the target is stunnable, which usually happens with specific boss adds or dungeon adds that you cannot interrupt but wish to nonetheless. Specifically for 8.3, this is also very good for Thing from Beyond if you have enough corruption to proc it. The alternative is Rumbling Earth, which reduces the cooldown of Shockwave if you hit 3 or more targets with it. This used to be part of the baseline ability, but since it's very difficult to design a spreadsheet talent system, Blizzard was obviously forced to break down the ability and make this effect something you need to talent into. Don't question the game design minds, neither one of us is one, so we couldn't possibly fathom the cost efficiency of this choice. It's like that one time when you were growing up super poor and your mom broke your piece of bread into tiny smaller pieces so you wouldn't eat all of it at once and have it last you longer. Same thing here, guys, so stop ranting, stop being salty because you lost options and have the talent into things you already had in the past baseline. If you want to avoid this, just buy some store mounts and don't be a baby. Moving down, the default pick for all contents is Booming Voice. This buffs your demo shout to increase your damage and give you rage, giving you a very good button you can press to control the flow of the fight. This bakes really well into the before mentioned Azurite trait that makes Thunderclap increase the duration of demo shout. This is a big reason why these two talents and the trait create such a good synergy amongst each other. A very niche alternative is Devastator. This removes the Devastate from your bars and makes it into a passive addition to your auto attacks. This can be combined with a specific trait, although there isn't a big synergy between the two to provide you with an increase to your single target damage. But that's about as far as this option will go in improving your gameplay. We would only recommend it if you really need that little bit of, yes, just little bit of extra single target damage. Wait, you mean to say your Infinite Star spec doesn't have a Prot Warrior talent option for you to play and you need Devastator? God damn it! Have you not learned anything in 8.3? Lastly, we have the last row with Anger Management, giving you, in my humble opinion, one of the best reasons Prot Warrior is cool and actually super good at tanking stuff. Reducing the cooldown of all of your major spells and avatars especially makes Prot Warrior shine like a beacon in an expansion filled with GCD bullshit, playstyle gated around their cooldowns and so on. This talent will outperform its counterparts in all content, be in raids and dungeons alike. Since you will be playing a tank, seeming for your stats and gear in general will only give you information about DPS outputs and not be an actual tank. The best way to approach basic gear is to get the highest eye level first, then look at haste and then versatility. This logic will help you out in raids most of all. We already covered the benefits of haste before. It increases the uptime of shield block, thunderclap, shield slam, revenge, and passively increases the rage you gain by giving you more overall auto attacks. It also lowers the global cooldown rate, which for tanks is something crucial and something that should never be and never have been an issue in the first place. Gcb Versatility is self-explanatory. Damage gain, damage reduction of all kinds. In dungeons, you still want eye level first, then haste, but can opt for crit above versatility since crit gives you parry, and when tanking multiple targets, very often, parry increases in value since it has more chances to proc, you being attacked more and all. Also more damage. With that in mind, when choosing your enchants and gems and other consumable like buffs, take haste or a cord of haste for rings and quicksand spindles for gems. You can still opt for one Leviathan's Eye of Strength, especially at lower eye level, and hence lower levels of strength. Your weapon will get the Force Multiplier enchant, which will be an overall good choice always. Take the Greater Flask of the Undertow for your 1 hour strength buff, and use the Superior Battle Potion of Strength as the best universal potion out there. There are other potions, mostly used to increase DPS with which you can play with, Empower Proximity being especially good in fights where you consistently have at least 4 targets in your 8-yard range. Eat feast for your major food buff, but feel free to replace them with baked potatoes for the haste and a cheaper alternative overall. Here we go, the juicy bits! As far as the traits go, there aren't many traits worth switching between in raids and dungeons. Nothing that would give you a considerable edge anyway. Not to mention, this raid is so AoE heavy that you don't really want to change it anyway. To not keep you in suspense any longer, Deafening Crash is your first must-have trait. It's not optional, it's not, oh, I'm gonna play this for now until... No! This makes Prot Warrior what it is and reinforces a few talent choices you made, as previously mentioned. If you stack it, you add more to your AoE damage output, but it's not as feasible since there are better options out there and you don't really want it for the damage in the first place. Bastion of Might, for example, is another almost must-have. You actually stack this 3 times for the mastery. You will have a lot of avatars while in combat, from anger management specifically, and a lot of rage generation from booming voice and the like. So mastery will make you very tanky and deal more damage. Just with 2 of these, my block chance and values and attack power doubles. So it's very good. Since you value eye level so much, the highest eye level pieces in the game won't offer you much in the way of alternatives, especially for secondary Azurite traits, which are normally just stats. But Heart of Darkness, for instance, will be a good stackable trait considering the raid offers it on a higher eye level Azurite than normal anyway. This and other generic stat traits are good filler traits. Brace for Impact excels at providing you with a higher single target DPS output. It helps defensively by increasing your block as well, but mainly you would go out of your way to get this if you wanted more single target damage. The essences offer a bit of variety. In raid, you want to go with Vision of Perfection baseline for the most overall tankiness and sustain. It excels in longer combat phases, and after the buffs to its proc, it's even better than before. Crucible of Flame will be the DPS alternative if you are outgearing the content, and the constant avatars will not be necessary to stay alive. For miners, Null Dynamo will be the best one since all raid fights have some form of magic damage, and being able to also convert that into DPS output will be a big bonus. Conflict and Strife is another good miner, a big versatility buff with a very high uptime. Nothing to scoff at. Formless Void will be your probably best third choice. It's good for the corruption resistance, sure, but the amount of uptime you will have on the strength buff in a raid is crazy, way higher than anything else. In dungeons, take Vision of Perfection Major almost always. We are running on the assumption here that you are pushing keys as high as you can, otherwise anything goes and the guide is of little help. Null Dynamo again for the same reasons as your first miner of choice. Conflict and Strife still as well as your second. Strength of the Warden will be your corruption essence. It works decently in terms of sustain as well, mostly because Formless Void does not perform as well in Mythic since your party will probably all pop their essences at the same time and the strength buff does not stack. Ages of the Deep will outperform Conflict and Strife in large AoE packs and will be a good alternative source of versatility if you don't have any other better choices. For Trinket, you can opt for Bloodthirsty Urchin if you have or can get it at a high enough eye level for the sustain, which protection lacks big time. It's from the old raid tier, I know, but can still Titan Forge if you want to go for it. The Lingering Psychic Shell from Ny'alotha performs really well for Prot as well and can be a considerable defensive cooldown. This is a good example of a good tank trinket that sadly doesn't work as well for every tank. Otherwise, haste powerhouses like the Humming Black Dragon Scale and the Vita Charged Stunner Shard, both Ny'alotha trinkets, will be very good trinkets to aim for, giving you either high amounts of haste or more frequent, smaller amounts, which is still, good. As far as weapons are concerned, there are really only 2 that drop in the raid that are worth getting. Pharaoh's drops from Rathian with a very lackluster corruption. It can be a filler corruption if you need to proc Heart of Darkness or just don't have a better alternative. The other option is the Lurker's Piercing Gaze, simply because it drops at a higher eye level than anything else, and eye level is still king. As for actual corruption effects, well, first keep in mind that you can actually deal with corruption negative effects quite effectively, specifically for things from beyond, which you can CC with a lot of abilities, while Spell Reflect will negate its full damage and also help you with Eye of Corruption damage as well. That aside, Infinite Stars will be the best DPS output for pure single target, while Toilet Devastation will be your AoE choice. Toilet Devastation is actually good in single target simply because it has stupid damage. Echoing Void is middle of the pack, but still worth not cleansing unless you have the before mentioned ones. As a rule, all stack corruptions, either proc or percentage increase, will be good for you. Surging Vitality is especially cool since it has a proc rate of 2 per minute, each lasting 20 seconds, so pretty high uptime on versatility, always a major plus. Other than this, there are more corruptions you can use and play with. It's hard to determine which is good, but there are graphs that you can find in the Skyhold Discord channel which can show you mathematically what is good and what is not. There are some links down in the description that are very helpful. As you open on the boss, you precast Avatar and intercept while taunting at the same time. Use Shield Block first, then Shield Slam, pop Demoralizing Shout, and after use Thunderclap quick, then proceed to your normal priority. The idea here is to make sure you have aggro on the boss since, demon hunters, and that you maximize the first few globals to make you not die in a few hits or take large amounts of melee damage unnecessarily, hence the initial Shield Block and Avatar. In terms of priority, Avatar is first and should be popped on cooldown, followed by Demoralizing Shout, cast Shield Slam on cooldown, Thunderclap next, Revenge only if it procs free of cost, and fill in with Devastate. What you also need to keep in mind is that a tank needs to be proactive and reactive to perform, as opposed to a DPS that will focus more on maximizing globals used for DPS output. Proactive refers to you preventing damage with cooldowns and shield block. Reactive refers to you reacting to a situation that has occurred to best keep your group alive and functioning at maximum efficiency. This can play into positioning the target, using utilities and crowd control, and so on. In AoE, you want to use Thunderclap above all else. Revenge next, followed by Shield Slam and Devastate as a filler and resetter. The cooldowns like Avatar and such still follow the same rules as before, and the priority you have for AoE focuses mostly on optimizing damage output. It's always good to save a bit of rage for shield block in case shit happens, both in AoE and single target, but damage is important as well, especially when you can dish a lot of it, and you can dish a lot of it. The faster you kill stuff, the less damage it deals to you that it would have otherwise needed to be mitigated. There's a lot more to go over for Prot Warrior, a lot of in-depth info that we cannot include in the video without turning it into an audiobook. With this being said, massive shout out to Mwaki, the author of the Icy Veins Guide and the Prot Dude theory crafter in the Warrior community. You can check him and all sorts of advanced info in the Skyhold Discord community with the link down below. Thanks Mwaki for helping us with the guide, feedbacking and fact-checking everything that we did here, and thank you Skyhold for being awesome. And of course, a major shout out to our patrons for supporting our content. You guys make this possible. You guys make us be able to do high quality content consistently and improve with each video. Yes, you play a big part of it. And if you want to support us as well, check the details down below. There's our Patreon link, merch link, and Marcelian. You know Marcelian has some cool graph design for your t-shirts, hoodies, and a lot of other cool stuff that you can get. So thank you everybody for watching the video. We hope it helped, and we'll catch you in the next time. And we'll catch you in the next one. Not in the next time, man. Why is grammar so difficult? I have a degree, man. A degree means shit.